My full name is Marjan Raar.
Paula Anneli Nygren. As a child I was called Paula, but then I was called Anneli.
I'm Jussi Koiranen.
And you are Finnish?
Yeah.
My full name is Heini Aho, but I use Heini Aho.
Jari Kallio. Pekka is my middle name. Your middle name? Yes, Pekka.
My name is Nina Helena Kivinen.
So you also have a middle name?
Yes. It's my mother's name. Was my mother's first name, Helena.
Uh-huh.
My first image that I can recall is when my little brother was born, and I was about 2 years old. I remember I was downstairs in the living room, and he was born upstairs, and I think my aunt took me up to my mom, and then I saw my little brother.
When you try to come back, what is the first image that you can recall, that you can remember when you were very, very young?
Well, about image, maybe it's something about a doll I got from Denmark. And because it was a Danish doll, it was named Dorte. And there was also a song from the radio, something about Ville haluaa tuon raketin punaisen. Ville wants a red rocket.
Mm-hmm. A red rocket?
Yes. Maybe it was a song inspired by Sputnik or something. It was those times.
That's kind of tricky because I'm pretty sure it's a made-up memory, because I've heard it from my aunt and my mother that when I was like 1 year old,
mm-hmm.
and I was moving around in our apartment,
Mm-hmm.
we used to live in what's it called, apartment building,
Mm-hmm.
and I had these little they're not Legos, but they were similar
Mm-hmm.
toys, and I used to drop them downstairs or from the
Mm-hmm.
I used to drop them downstairs, and the downstairs neighbor had to bring them up, and I have a very vivid image of me dropping them from the balcony to the balcony downstairs.
I have a memory, but I'm not sure if that has anything to do with me being small or young or birth or something, but I have a feeling of like visual image,
Mm-hmm.
of a black space where is in a way constellation almost. They are not wires, but there is a constellation of red, green, blue. I'm not sure about yellow. Sort of thin pipes all together, and they are in the black space, like above me. This I would say it's the kind of goes farthest I can remember.
And how that space looks like? Is it?
It's borderless. It's like.
But any kind of shape? Is it a circle or?
I guess it's round.
Square.
It's so dark. The image is so dark, so I really don't.
So this is kind of like an infinitive space.
Yes.
Do you remember what is the first image that you can recall? The very first image that when you come back and when you return. No, you can't. No.
For some reason, I suddenly came back to a memory. I must have been something around 4 or 5. In the same apartment building, there was a boy called Niklas, and he was about almost the same age as I was. He was about a month older, I think.
and we played a lot and we fought a lot. And I was sort of bigger and stronger. So when we were fighting over a toy or whatever, I always sort of could grab him and hold on to him very strongly. And his only sort of way of getting away was to bite me in the arm. So I had these bite marks in my arms.
Oh.
When he was sort of trying to get loose from my grip. So sort of, I remember this because I always felt that was sort of a coward way. Sort of, you have to, that was not sort of a very good way to fight. You should sort of use your strength and your muscles and not bite.
Definitely not buying, yeah.
So that's kind of, I remember the bite marks in the arms, and it must have been something around the age of 4 or 5 or something like that. My father was not often there. He was at sea, so he was a long time away. The first time, I don't even remember that, but the first time my father saw me, I was 1.5 years old.
My father had a business, something like I'm not sure if I can explain it, but used metal and so on.
Okay.
And mother was working sometimes, and sometimes she was at home, but
And you were born in Helsinki, or?
I was born in Helsinki.
Mm-hmm. And used to live there?
Yes, I have moved to Turku in 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Or that the childhood wasn't that rich, but now I think we are pretty rich, and we are usually, it's not that we go out on restaurants, but what we eat at home is often pretty luxurious.
I have a very strong memories of realizing something. I guess these were the following me. Like I was with my father and my sister on the beach. I can't remember how old I was, small anyway. And I saw 2 people coming from the water. And in that moment, in that very moment, I realized that the 2 people were different. Like the differences, they were both adult, and for example, I had never realized that adults are anything, they are just some big people.
Is it common to have a middle name in Finland?
Yes, it's common, and for me, when I was 7th grade, I found out that I have a middle name.
Really?
All life before 7th grade, I thought that my name is Jari Pekka, putting those names together. And my parents never explained this to me.
Why?
I don't know, because they get used to it. And I was always wondering why I don't have a middle name.
Oh, like other kids?
Yes.
Oh.
Then I just find out from passport or somewhere that I really have a middle name.
Let's say from the date of birth, which is actually 0, to the age of 7. Can you describe me what kind of color that period was?
Yellow.
Yellow.
Yeah, I don't know. It's sort of.
This is very, very strange, because I asked some people and they have to really think. But I think you mustn't think. It's kind of there exists already.
Yeah. I don't know where that came from, but yeah, it was definitely yellow.
Yeah.
There's somehow sunshine and there's laughter and there's sort of I don't know, easy or something. Yeah.
What does it mean, color red, to you?
Well, as a child it was my favorite color, but then it was not.
Why?
I thought it was the favorite color of children, and I had to get rid of it.
I mean, if I recall my memories, I would always say that I was born in 1982, and then my 1980s were completely yellow somehow, and then my 1990s were completely black and silver, and 2000 some other color. I mean, and it's really important because they have to try to revoke your to rebuild kind of abstract life.
Yeah.
I think I have two toys, but were they that important? I had two toys, and maybe I would point out the more important was a big cat. It was made by my mother, quite actually sculptural cat, like three-dimensional. It was a black cat, it had a red nose, and it had a like human eyes, but like eyes with white, what is this thing? Like blue eyes and then the white surrounding.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that thing was quite something. It was also because it was big, like how big? Maybe like my size. So actually, yeah. So for me, it was like to really drag that kind of three-dimensional cat was somehow.
I do remember one accident or this kind of conflict I had with my brother, and he was actually then I was on the street and he was calling me that dinner was ready, and he opened the front door, and then just before I came, he closed it in front of my nose, and the door downstairs was glass. So I had so much speed because I was on my way running in. So I went right through the door.
Mm-hmm.
The glass was broken, everything was broken, and happily I had nothing.
I remember this. My parents once, they have a huge fight, and me and my brother felt like it was our fault that they are fighting, but of course it wasn't. And this I really remember.
Like feeling the responsibility for.
Yes, and I remember clearly that my mom carried this. They were fighting actually at who have to take garbage out from our place. So my mom just threw the garbage can or this kind of box to the ground in our apartment, and me and my brother start to clean these trashes. So it's, I don't know, somehow it was our fault. Of course it wasn't. But, this was.
So this is the thing what you remember, and
traumatic.
I had another thing with him. We were always like didn't want to do the dishes after the food. And then we were always running to the toilet, so we always had this kind of like competition who was first in the toilet and should not be like there in the kitchen to clean the dishes. And I was first on the toilet, I remember. I was pulling the door, and he was on the other side of the door, and he was pulling it back, and I was pulling it again, and then he was pulling it back, and then it was the third time I was like pulling so hard that the handle was breaking, and I had so much speed again, so I bumped with my head back to the wall, and I had a concussion after that. I still remember that kind of thing.
I didn't like school. From the first day there was something, I just didn't like it. I found it was, I don't know, I remember realizing that some other kids, they in a way liked it. I would have been the first one if there is any reason to stay away, or I would stay away. So I really tried. I remember that still I had that need of trying to do my best so that I'm fine. But so it was both. I feel like I was very unmotivated and lazy, and at the same moment like pretty much working for it.
Can you tell me something about Dorte?
Dorte, it was small doll, not dollhouse size, but something like
a bit more.
Yes, something maybe 20 centimeters, but baby doll and baby dolls are usually in real baby size.
Yeah, they are
And she had a wig from real hair. I think my aunt had made it because she was a wig maker and made later also many doll wigs.
And do you remember the period when you lost your mother?
Yeah.
And so this is one of the kind of memories that I would like to rise up. And what kind of accident it was?
She died of cancer. So she was ill for about 2.5 years before she died. So in the end, sort of, she dying was a surprise, or sort of took me as a sort of, I hadn't really prepared for that. Well, I don't know if you can ever be prepared, but in a way, sort of not having said goodbye really has bothered me a lot since then.
I did quite lots. Many of these, I don't know, illegal stuff.
Illegal stuff?
Yes. In the age of 11, it start. I remember quite clearly, and it continued till 15, age of 15. So this between these ages, I did lots of what is the name of the burglaries? No. When you go some like kiosk or shop, like what is the name for it? You break in, no.
You go inside without permission?
Yeah. I mean, yes.
So it's kind of the small robberies.
Yes. Those I did it. Quite many.
Have you been excited about that?
Yes, and this was only motive I.
Yeah, it's like a feeling the kind of danger and at the same time excitement and the purposes that you're doing what you're doing.
And this strong feeling that I have to do something what I don't know, was something what I didn't understand. I wanted something badly. I felt like I'm missing something, but I'm kind of feeling these empty feelings with doing those things.
Did you travel a lot as a kid?
No, not at all. I mean, somewhere here and there in Finland, but maybe one time Stockholm or so, but no.
I'm still having this passion for traveling, which is actually from my childhood already. It's coming actually from my dad. My dad that's why he was a sailor also. He was always on the road. He was always traveling. He was always away. He was always packing his bags, and I see that now in myself. I'm always packing my bags. My brother is always packing his bags. I live in Finland. My brother lives in Singapore. So we have my mom. My dad died 2 years ago. My mom is alone in Holland. So we are really this kind of traveling.
But it's kind of urgency that your body can't stand in one place, and then you have to go through.
It's really
to be able to exist.
I'm always like wanting to go to places that I don't know. I always want to explore places, new people, new faces, new cultures.
In some countries, you believe whenever you wake up, you're like, what are you going to eat that day? Or you're really worrying that something is going to happen. You're afraid of bombs, you're afraid of criminals, you're afraid of thieves, whatever. But here it's kind of not really, or not typical at all. And have you ever considered to move yourself somewhere else, in some other countries, and try to experience that kind of life?
Yeah, I have thought about it, but I don't, or actually I haven't thought about it. I realized that some countries are really, really poor, and I would like to have time and have money and have the resources to go and try to rebuild and help. And I was thinking about how I heard this organization that you could go and teach English or maths to young people, and I thought that was really interesting. But when I found out that I would have to pay for my living expenses and my plane tickets and all of that, that the organization wouldn't help me, I was thinking that it would be too much because I would have to learn the language, and it might have been easy, but it was something I wasn't ready to do at this moment.
Somehow, particularly for Scandinavia, there exists the belief that you are in a much better position than the rest of the world. I don't know. I mean, you can say like that, but
yes, of course, people live better than people in some kind of Africa, but
yes, of course.
on the other hand, we have more to pay about housing and so on.
Yeah.
And less for fun.
The Second World War is, in a way, not very far away, but it is so far away that I don't have any memories, or my parents don't have any real. Well, my father does.
Yeah.
I have some memories of the war, and all my sort of grandparents are already dead. So in a way, I'm surrounded by people who don't have their own so much anymore, have their own experience of war. But sort of the Second World War is so very strong in the Finnish culture as a sort of token of explaining what Finnishness is somehow. Sort of, you will fight for your rights even sort of when this sort of situation is very against you, and when it seems hopeless, that still you'll go on. But I don't know actually. But that's a good question. Do I actually share that belief myself? I mean, on the other hand, I mean the financial circumstances are very different. I can easily buy a plane ticket somewhere else and move.
Yes, that is
sort of which sort of wasn't possible 70 years ago.
I mean, I try to somehow to reconstruct the coming from the rando images and revoking all possible images and all possible elements. This is the reason why I'm asking you all the time about these colors, about these elements, because this what I'm drawing now, what you're gonna see later, is completely abstract. I mean, it's full of some shapes and symbols and arrows and other stuff, and it's completely polygonal. And I don't know if it's something to do with your life, but this is the way how I see this.
But I do not believe we can like transmit ourselves like back in time. I don't believe so. But into future, yes.
Into future, definitely yes.
Yes,
yeah.
I'm for airspaces and that kind of rockets and that kind of
yeah.
stuff. Yeah, I'm planning to go to the moon, actually. I would love to go to
Well,
the moon.
I'm also planning, so this is just a matter of moment.
It is. I know it's going to be like that, like maybe 50, 60 years and people can go to the moon. I mean, they go already now, but then it's more common. Somehow, with the death of my mother, this city is sort of the location of or where I belong, or where I take part, which in a way is strange because I mean she's not here, but she's buried here and she lived here and I lived here and sort of, and perhaps that's something I would fight for, or something I would sort of, or at least I feel it seems to be very difficult for me to leave behind or move away, or sort of. I've tried a few times, sort of. I've studied abroad and occasionally and stuff like that, but I always come back, sort of, and only for short periods of time. The whole idea of leaving this.
Do you have a feeling that we fulfilled our obligations and the half an hour is already over?
Oh.
And yeah, it's just past like a split of second, and I may say it was a very, very kind of emotional story that we passed through, because I guess usually whenever you go with your friends or with yourself, you never lead this kind of dialogue, because you talk much more about your what's happening now, even or what are your plans for the future, but not really coming back like that. I think we are usually coming back with ourselves when we go to sleep, or when we are lost, when we are alone, and then we come back to that period and we revoke informations, but somehow never really materialized like this. Maybe in the end you're gonna have it in your biography, or if you ever write biography for yourself or somebody else. And what do you think about this kind of talk back to back?
Maybe in fact it was better than you didn't see me, but maybe you see me in the camera.